to another episode of Sketchy Ideas, the live video podcast, point, counterpoint debate, all that good stuff where we illustrate debate things surrounding business, leadership, personal development, history, movies, cartoons, you name it. We talk about it here, and we try to have some fun along the way, just to make sure you think twice before implementing that new idea you just found on the interwebs. Hi, I am Brad James.
And I'm Michael Rampolla.
And we are your hosts. And today we're going to dive into, if you recall last week, we talked about tracking data and value of data and all that good stuff and how you implement the plan. Today we're going to begin to dive into the differences between having your team of people, your 5 people, and why you need specifically one of them in order to make it all work. But before we do that, a word from our sponsors. Over to you, Mr. Rampolla.
Over to me. For business owners that understand the value of data to help them make better decisions, Spirity provides the one business transformation system that gives you the clarity and the insight you need to help your business grow. There are a lot of unknowns in running your business. If you want to know and you believe that knowing will help you achieve better outcomes, reach out to Spirity. Spirity is fighting the unknowns and removing the unknowns to help you get the insights you need to make those decisions for growth. Reach out to us at spirity.com because you want to know. That's us. Thanks, Brad. Back to you.
You do want to know.
You want to know.
Especially if you're on your own. You just want to know.
Just want to know.
But you don't have to do it on your own, do you? No. Especially when it comes to marketing and sales stuff. Often those things get left in the dust when you're working in the day-to-day. So sometimes we forget about branding, creating content, especially if you're trying to manage all those social media platforms because you really don't know what works, so you're just throwing stuff out there sporadically. Do me a favor, hit up my friend Erin over at Cream City Marketing. She's going to help you out. Her email is erin@creamcitymarketing.com, where their goal is to relieve the stress of marketing so you can do all the rest. All right, with that little bit of a recap from last week. Last week, if you recall, we dove into some details around scoring the value of the activity you're doing in your process. Especially, we used to talk about customer acquisition in comparison to baseball was one of the metaphors we went over. But you really have to think about doing that in every part of your business. And so today, Michael and I want to walk through some categories of people that we know everybody should have. You probably have a few of them. And we're not talking about disciplinary. We're talking about in terms of the roles they play for you as a small business owner that's trying to grow a growing company and how that works. So with that, I just want to share a little story before Michael dives in. I, as a business owner, when I was young, dumb, naive, whatever you want to call it, had the idea that I can do it all on my own. Every single thing. I got this. That's very, very doable. Until you find yourself not sleeping except for 2 to 3 hours a night, you've given up working out, you're probably not eating healthily, and sometimes you take on some other ancillary things like maybe instead of just having that one beer that night in order to fall asleep, you have 2 or 3, right? Instead, and then you wake up in the morning and you feel less good and all that good stuff. Right? The point is that we've all been there, especially if you're a small business owner. And if you haven't, consider yourself special because you're smarter than I was. At the same point in time, I learned because I went through that pain that I needed to find specific groups of people, not specifically in terms of like disciplinary skill sets, even though that was a part of it. I actually needed people in my direct circle who filled a number of different roles. And today, Michael's going to go through it with you, but I can tell you that when I began to do that, what really opened up was the opportunity for me to actually grow myself and grow the business and not kill myself trying. That sound about right to you? I mean, you see that often enough.
That's the entrepreneur's journey, right? That's key and critical to here's the thing about that lesson, right? That is a lesson that no matter how many times you hear it, you must learn it from experience. Everybody says you don't have to do it by yourself. Everybody says you can get some help. Everybody says they want to help. And everybody and every receiver of that advice goes, okay, that's probably true for everybody else but me.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody says that. Everybody who's been there and done that is telling me that. But you know what? I am different and special.
I am special. That's what my mom always told me.
This is what I'm saying. That's a conversation for a different day, bro. But that is a schema. That is a way of viewing the world, right? That is a paradigm that must be shifted, because it is true that you want to do it by yourself. It is also true that you are not designed to do it by yourself. People never say
I'm not
do it all by yourself.
I'm not the bionic man.
Not yet. We don't yet have that technology. So it's funny because everybody tells you you're not supposed to do it by yourself. And everybody somehow still hears, I'm supposed to do it all by myself. Like there's complete breakdown there. Now,
yes,
the way that how do we prove that that's not true, or prove which part of that is true? We look to who's really successful, right? Think about people who are at the top of their game, their industry, their corner of the world. They might appear to be operating solo there because they're at the top of some mountain, right? But they're at the top of a mountain of people and support. There's a line is, if I appear taller than others, is because I stand upon the shoulders of giants. The idea is that you are at your best when you are supported by others who are best at what they do. Because there's things that you're great at and things you're not great at, right? I mean, I will be the first to tell you there are things that Brad is not great at. And therefore...
very few. There's very few things.
A couple small things.
One of them, dancing without choreography. One of them, let's see, eating canned peas. And another one, I think that's it.
So you're saying we found your kryptonite. Canned peas and spontaneous dancing. Good to know.
There's a bunch more stuff out there. I promise you. You just have to ask my closest friend. I'm sure Michael's going to tell you all of those things and share them with you today. I just like to keep them quiet and inside because I'm insecure about the things that I'm not good at.
I'm just happy to know you have kryptonite, and I'm happy to know I can buy it in a can. Like, that's all I'm saying. Apparently if I just turn on some dance music, unbeknownst to you, like I could put you in a corner. Good to know.
And put a can of peas in the middle of the floor.
There you go. Just think. So what we're saying is the people who are at the top of their game surround themselves with the right support systems, right? That's why we call this success by association. I am successful because of who I choose to associate with. And there's different ways to figure out what it is that you need, but the short answer is everything that you aren't great at yourself, right? There's a lot of things that fall in that category. This comes under kind of a bigger heading, which I think is important for us to just reference for everyone. Brad, it's that's the 5 people theory, or the 5 people principle. Do you want to talk a little bit about that idea? Because I think it's core to
the rule of 5
this matters. The rule of 5.
The rule of 5. So the rule of 5 says you become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. I'm sure I'm not the first person you've heard that from. If I have, that means you're not hanging out with enough good people. And that means Michael and me, right? Like, if you're hanging out with us all the time, we love it, but we're still growing, we're still learning, we're still getting better at things. Michael's almost there, but we're trying to get there. But the rule of 5 states that if you spend time with those 5 people, if those are the 5 people you spend the most time with, through interactions, through osmosis, through conversation, through learning from them, your brain begins to form more neural pathways that help you understand where you want to go. So when you begin to select those five people, like as a group, a lot of people just look at, okay, I need to listen to the 5 best people in the world in terms of business. And that's true to a point. But if you're in an industry, if you're trying to work on a skill set, if you're trying to play on a team, a position on a team, spend that's why the conversation in sports is always the way it is like, if you play with better players, they tend to raise your skill level and ability, even though you don't realize it. And it's not just because of their play, it's because they're always around you and they're challenging you and they're trying to push you to be better, and your brain rises up to that point in time. So that's also why some of you, often in your journey of business development and as you grow your company, you begin to realize that, hey, I don't spend as much time with this group of friends or group of peers that I used to. And you've probably actively or inactively, made a choice to move into a different group that's where you want to be or closer to where you want to be. So it happens naturally and organically. But the other way you can do it is you can spend more time with reading books, listening to podcasts, getting the positive energy going, all that stuff, as well as if you're trying to improve certain areas of your business or trying to improve your business, these other 5 people, this is another way to look at how your 5 people can function in different roles for you as an individual.
Thanks, Brad. And I think one of the important points that Brad mentioned there at the end is it's going to happen. Like, this is a fact. It is a fact that you will be influenced by, most directly, the people who are closest to you. You can either just leave that to chance, or you can operate with intention. And the point, I think, that what we're advocating for here is act with intention. If you want to achieve more, grow more, be better, right, then you're the player who's going to choose to practice with the varsity squad, or you're going to, put yourself in a position to be the low end of the scale, right? Some people really love. You got to
lean into discomfort.
Yes,
you have to lean into discomfort, right? So when you are the best at what you do in your area, you have to push harder, both not only in the work you put in and what you're learning in terms of the knowledge and information. Hey, that falls under expert, as well as the people who are laying out plans. The plans get a little more complex. Hey, consultant, as well as maybe your mentors. Your mentors are going to need to have different experience. Hey, and then you're also going to need to level up the area of people holding you accountable, which is the one we're really going to talk about, AKA your coach, and then your counselor. Your counselor is also going to be able to give you different advice. And sometimes you're going to have to jump from one to the next. So as we go through this, I've got stories for all of these. I know we're going to focus on 3 of them, but I want to make sure that people understand the context of why this is important. And hopefully you just caught a little bit of a glimpse, a taste of it.
Excellent. Well done. That was perfect. Nice head up overview. And just grab the discomfort idea, right?
By the way, I'm being yelled at for not liking canned peas. And that's about it. You drop a comment and then I will answer that comment wherever that is.
People are upset with you for not, is it the Canned Peas Advocacy Association? I mean,
it's PETA.
I was good. Peas for everyone, always. Super. I don't know. Yeah. Peas Council. Here's the discomfort idea, right? If you are always comfortable, you are not growing.
Correct.
We are talking to the people who want to be growing. And let me just, I'm not telling you to sign off because, hey, we love all of our viewers. But here's what I am telling you. We're going to talk to you about how to grow. Growing is change. Change is uncomfortable. That's all back to science, right? So if you want to get better, you're going to have to evaluate your current 5, if you will, and ensure that they are all pushing and encouraging you, that they are encouraging that discomfort, leaning into and helping you be there. If you keep the same 5 all the time, then at some point that's just going to level out. You're going to say, I'm good with where I am and I never want to get better or change. And if that's good for you, that's great. We're talking to the people who want better and want more. We're talking to people who want greater success. For those people, you've got these different roles that need to be played, and understanding the differences between them enables you to leverage them for the success you're desiring. So, Brad, I think you did a great job there, just kind of nailing each one of these for its specific function. So why don't we go back to those, and which one do you want to talk about its function first?
Well, let's start with the 2 that I think most people probably have in a mentor and in a counselor.
Right.
Those are 2 that I know more often than not people think about, and they go, hey, I have a mentor or somebody in that area who's advising me based on their experiences, right? So a mentor is going to advise you based on their experiences or knowledge, or they've had all of these people before too. So what they're going to do is share with you what they know and mentor you. But the thing about mentors, and if you haven't realized this yet, most mentors give you their time for things other than money or any type of benefit outside of they care about you. They love you. They want you to succeed. For me growing up, one of my mentors, a mentor was my grandpa, a mentor was my dad, right? Both of them. Or a mentor was a teacher or an educator at some point in time. And that mentor, what they did was they said, hey, they challenged my thought process. But at the end of the day, here's the difference. At the end of the day, that mentor really does not have a stake in your success as a business owner or as a leader, right? They want you to succeed, but the risk to them is low or non-existent.
Right.
They probably will continue to talk to you even if you fail, right? So they don't have a stake in your actual financial or professional or personal success. All right. So I want to make that very clear so we can understand how these roles all work. Okay. The other person is the counselor. And sometimes that same person will also act as the counselor. More often than not, though, as you grow in your business and in your personal life and in any of those categories, your counselor will shift. Okay. Your counselor tends to sometimes be the friends who, I just clarified, plug your ears if you got kids in the room, is the person you bitch to or complain about. And I think that's really clear. Like, they're just going to listen. They're going to listen to you complain. They're going to have empathy for you. And more often than not, this is the person who, again, the stake is if you have a therapist, that's great. That's part of what they're trying to do. They're trying to help you through your mental stuff and untangling things and give you access to somebody who doesn't, their stake in the game has nothing to do with your financial success. It has to do with your mental growth and mental ability to grow as a person and get things off of your chest. One of my favorite episodes of, How I Met Your Mother was the whole yelling downhill thing, where when you got yelled at work, you went home, you yelled at your wife, you yelled at your dog, and your wife yelled at the dog, and the dog barked at the kid, and then the kid came out, kicked your boss in the shin, and it went full circle. So, like, this is a very critical thing, and I'm not saying that that's the right way to handle it, but it's always good to set boundaries with this type of person, because that person is going to be there for you and listen to you. And if you're in a couple, often this is your significant other. And there's some ways that you can work through that stuff too, in terms of setting boundaries. I like, there's a lot of great ways out there, including DBT and some other relationship stuff that hopefully at the Sketchy Soiree we'll have somebody speaking about. So interesting. All right. So those are the two I want to start with, because those two don't directly impact your ability to grow your business from a business skill set standpoint. Yes, from an empathy and talking, and yes, from like an experience and wisdom standpoint. Your mentors also can be like the books you read, like, hey, again, I brought this up before, this one, or How to Win Friends and Influence People, Dale Carnegie. Like, those are mentors in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I call Stephen Covey a mentor. I've never met the man, but the way that he framed out the 7 habits and the way that I took that stuff as, wow, this is not about business. This is about the way the world works. These are principles and paradigms that are universal.
Yeah.
I consider him a mentor, even though I've never actually had any interaction with him, because the role is wisdom from experience. Exactly what you talked about.
Yep.
So the other thing I'm hearing you say, and it's important to have counselors in different areas, because they help you with your mental and your emotional well-being. If all I am is mentally, emotionally well, and getting wisdom from somebody else's experience, those are good for me as a human being.
Yes, they are.
They are not the direct contributors to my business growth.
Correct.
Put me in a better position, but they don't actually functionally make it happen. There's an indirect correlation, and we're making a point about the value of the direct correlation. So let's hit the 3 that really do make the biggest impact.
All right. So these 3 are important from a couple of reasons. And let's start on the right side. So expert, consultant, and then coach. I want to go in that order. So experts are people who have great information and know-how on, think of like the nuts and bolts of how to implement something, whether that's marketing, sales, finance, HR, think about the core pieces of your business. Maybe it's a retail expert. Maybe it's a industry specific thing, right? So with a lot of engineers, maybe in like water technology. With water technology, you're going to have experts in different areas in terms of like flow or like construction of pipes, or in terms of like washers and sealants, right? So you're going to have experts in very specific things and very broad things, right? In terms of other things, you're going to have experts potentially in like, hey, we're at BPods, we're experts in beekeeping, right? But it's just this source of information and know-how. They don't actively lay out a plan unless they have that as a service. So it's good information to understand the theory and practice, but it doesn't actually help you directly. So it's good information, right? You need it in order to execute. Whereas a consultant in that area, a consultant is actually going to diagnose, they're going to observe and diagnose and then lay out a plan for you more often than not. Now, some consultants may get their hands dirty, but that leads them to being more of a builder in your business. And we're not talking about the builders today, because you hire builders, you outsource building, all of that stuff. But consultants are the ones who lay out the frameworks and the plans and say, hey, here are the steps you need to go. Now, I would imagine all of you have those 4 people somewhere in your business and in your world. Every single one of them.
Yep.
The one that most people miss, and this is where we as human beings are lazy. We are innately biological creatures, and we are lazy, because the idea of biology is that your body wants to have as little stress on its biological systems and its well-being as possible, because that's what biological systems do. And the stress is only supposed to happen when your lizard brain flares up, fight, flight, or freeze. And that's like the basis of biology in the world. Yep. Okay? Because the goal is just survive. Survival does not mean stress. This is where human beings are very different, because we have really complex brain structures, along with some other animals who also, as we're learning, do some really crazy things too, which are really cool, which is why I love bees. But if you look at the brain structure, since we are inherently lazy, we end up going, hey, great, I need a mentor. I want to hear the experience, because that's fun. That's good for me. And then guess what? I want to be able to vent to somebody. Hey, I need that counselor. And between the 2 of them, they say, hey, you should probably go talk to somebody who has more information on this thing. Great. So I go find an expert. That expert says, hey, here's all the information. It's the encyclopedia on X. And then they're like, hey, but that's all I can do for you. So you need to go find somebody who can help you build out a plan for you, because what I'm sharing with you doesn't necessarily work for everybody. So you need somebody who's very specific and can apply it. Okay, so then you find the consultant. The consultant goes, hey, I understand what you're doing. Let's apply this. Here's the plan. Now the thing is I'm just laying out the plan for you. If you follow this to a T, you should be good. And then they leave. And then they're like, great, I got a plan. And you start it, and you're doing it for a couple days or a couple weeks. And then all of a sudden you fall off because it's not getting the results fast enough for you. And you go, crap, what is wrong? Is it me? And then you question all the people who told you to do that stuff.
Oh, tell me about it.
And then you hate them.
Talk about that.
And then you get mad.
About it.
So you go back to the consultant and you say, hey, your plan doesn't work. And they go, dude, you didn't follow the plan. And they say, maybe your information's wrong. Then you go back to the expert and you're like, hey, your information is way off.
Doesn't work for me.
That this was the right information. And they're like, well, I gave you the information. I didn't say I would apply it, And then they're like, hey, leave me alone. And then they're like, darn it, I need to go talk to the counselor. And the counselor's like, well, blah, blah, blah. What did they tell you to do? And they're like, they think about it. And they go, well, maybe you need to think about it. And then you just get angry at them. And so then you go back to the mentor and you expect the mentor to do everything. And remember, they are the person with the least amount of stake in your business. So they don't care.
They don't.
This leads me to the point.
You, but they don't care that the plan is working.
Correct. This leads me to the point, and most mentors, let's be honest, most mentors are older, and that's great, but they don't understand how things may work today in this world. Which leads me to the 5th person, and the 3rd leg of this execution stool. This is the coach, okay? And if you do not have a coach, and what I mean by a coach, boiling it down, most people who are successful have many, many coaches. And those coaches all align in different areas of things. But the coach's job is to do one simple thing. It's very simple. They hold you accountable. That's it. Like at the root of what a coach does, they hold you accountable. Would you say that's about right, Michael?
Nailed it. That's their job, because it's based on it. Everybody else did their part, right? And if you stop here, right, what happens next? Exactly what Brad talked about. If you don't do the thing you set yourself up to do, then you're absolutely going to just kind of play the whole thing back, get back up to the top of the order and go, I don't know what to do next.
And there may be some truth in my history to that story that I laid out for you, based on some stuff.
Got it. So, now, what is the accountability to? What is the coach holding you accountable to?
So you've got a plan if you've talked to an expert and a consultant. So the expert's laying out the information so you understand how the plan is supposed to work. The consultant has customized the plan to what you need to do most of the time. There's probably always going to be a few tweaks, but the coach is the one that holds you accountable to that plan. And then when that tweak comes up that doesn't exactly fit, they're there to help you navigate how to pivot it. So I think back to, like I ran track in high school. So it's kind of like my track coach. When I was doing triple jump, I had a head coach and I had a jumping coach. And the head coach said, hey, here's the basics of it. Here's what you do. They handed me off to a more specific coach. That coach then held me accountable to a plan that was laid out between him and the head coach. And so we followed the plan. And then when that plan didn't exactly work because my mechanics, my biological mechanics didn't work exactly the way it was supposed to, that coach helped me maneuver that plan and still held me accountable to the plan in order to achieve the goal. You need that, especially in business. Business is hard. It is very harsh on the mental brain, which is why you need a counselor, as well as it's very harsh in terms of following through on the execution of it. Because your counselor is not going to understand the execution of how that is, but your coach, especially if it's in a specific discipline, is going to hold you accountable to it.
Absolutely right. So the coach is aligned to me, and they're helping. So what we're talking about, what everybody cares about, right? The coach cares about successful outcomes. Out of all the five, they're the one or ones, if you're getting multiple, and you should, they're the ones who care about successful outcomes. And they know, here's the plan. I'm holding you accountable to the plan, and I'm holding you accountable to the outcome. Because if the plan isn't getting us to the outcome, we adjust the plan to get to the outcome. That's the coach's job. Think about a sports coach, right? We're running this set of plays. Is it working? No. Well, we should probably adjust that because we all care about the outcome, right?
Yes.
To Brad's point, right? That's a great example. Business coaches do the same thing. Number one thing we always talk about with business owners is, what's your revenue number? What do you need to be bringing in from a revenue standpoint for your business to be solid? And if that's not happening, it's absolutely as much on me as the coach as it is on the business owner, because that means I need to help them figure out a better plan and ensure that they're doing what they need to do to get the plan accomplished so that they get their revenue goal, because that's what I'm accountable to. I'm accountable to their number one priority.
Yeah.
Because if I'm not doing that job, I'm not doing any job for them. I have no value. Because they've got everything else.
I'm curious to everybody who watches this, if you actually have somebody you can identify as that coach. And I would imagine that most people in the world, and okay, I want to make this very clear. There are a lot of people who say they are coaches. They're not actually coaches. They're actually experts, or they're consultants. Okay? They say they're coaches,
talk about it,
but they're actually experts or consultants, because they are not going to follow up and hold you accountable to the system. Now, that doesn't mean some of them aren't, okay? And a lot of these roles sometimes do overlap. And I think that's also important to understand. But the point is that you need somebody who's going to hold you accountable. And what I mean by that is they're going to help you take that plan, build it into bite-sized chunks so that you can execute it on your schedule and adjust it as needed. So we're at the end of our time. We actually put together a great opportunity for all of you out there, in order to do this, to actually get some one-on-one time with some great experts, some great coaches, some great consultants, and even a counselor. okay, that's going to help you with this stuff. And each of those people, we have began to walk through all of these details and said, where are you going to fit? What do you want to share?
Because we know we need all of this.
And we're going to continue.
We know you need all of this.
We're going to continue to add more and more of those over time. But our initial group, we've got a great group set for you that's going to work in different areas. So marketing, sales, financial, and even like in the mental stuff to help you figure out how to move that stuff forward. And you're going to leave that event with at least a plan and an option to choose whether or not you're going to want to coach. Because we can't coach you in literally a half a day, right? Coaching is a consistent thing. We can lay it out for you in the basics, but then I promise you, you're probably going to leave and not necessarily want to hold yourself accountable unless you're the most disciplined person on the planet, which if you are, there are some of them out there. Good for you. You're one of them. We call them unicorns, evidently. That's the new term these days. So well done. Good for you. High five. If you're not one of those, hey, it's okay to get help. The only way that I do all the stuff that I'm doing, the only way that Michael does all the stuff he's doing, and in fact, it's the only way that all of my clients do all the stuff that they're doing, period.
There you go.
So with that, I think that's the end of our show.
That was
we got some great stuff planned for you for next week, but stay tuned. And if you're looking for more information on that event, it's sketchyevents.com for the people who don't know how to spell. And if you're super smart and sophisticated, sketchysoiree.com.
Ooh. If you don't know how to spell soiree, use events. We got backup plans for you.
We got backup plans. We're trying to make it easy for those, but for those of you who are fancy, if you're fancy.
Sketchy soiree if you're fancy. And if you're not, events.
Okay, it's coming up. We're putting some stuff together. We want to hear what you think about it. If you've got some other thoughts, again, this is our beta event. We're going to run this over and over again. But for those of you who come, we've got some special things set up for you. And we're going to make sure we go above and beyond, and then we're going to get feedback. And if you didn't like it, we're going to make it right. That's the big thing about it. So
how you beta?
There's our little pitch for the day. You want to call it that? A little pitch?
Yeah.
Little pitch?
Little pitch.
All right.
Pitch.
Until next week, when we do this again with another sketchy idea. Hi and bye. I am Brad James.
And I am Michael Rampolla. And remember, just because it's a sketchy idea doesn't mean it's not worth exploring. We'll see you next time.